presentation is supported by our regional water supplier, Tarrant Regional Water District. TRWD maintains 4 area lakes and pipelines needed to provide surface water to local water treatment plants so they can clean it to meet drinking water standards for our communities. They also work with many cities in Tarrant County, such as Fort Worth, Arlington, and Mansfield, to provide water conservation programs for the community. Conservation is an important water supply strategy to help meet the needs of a growing population. There are currently 2.3 million people in Tarrant County, and this is expected to double over the next 50 years. This is why TRWD supports many programs that help save water through outdoor watering and gardening education. At SaveTarrantWater.com, you can sign up for free weekly watering advice custom to your location. If you are a resident of Tarrant County, you can sign up for a free sprinkler system checkup where a licensed irrigator comes to your home and provides a comprehensive evaluation of your system with recommendations to reduce water waste. There is also an event calendar where you can find important information about future classes and workshops. TRWD also partners with organizations like Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service and the Tarrant County Master Gardeners to provide educational programs just like this one. Be sure to check out SaveTarrantWater.com and sign up for their free services.
Well, thanks everybody for joining. It's 91 degrees here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I'm not sure all y'all if y'all from Texas or not, but if you're here, it's an interesting topic. Here we are in the end of June talking about fall or in winter gardening. Never too early to start. Early fall is the best time for Texans to prepare their gardens for the wintertime. A good rule of green thumb is the farther north you are in the state of Texas, you need to start preparing yourself. So tonight we're going to cover several topics, some in specifics and some in generalities. We're going to talk about cleaning, pruning, mulching, composting, plants, perennials, bulbs, tools, in a nice gambit. And we're going to talk a little bit about fertilizer pre-emergence at the end. So this would be a very active and entertaining presentation because I'm going to be all over the page because we have several topics. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. So again, thank you all for attending. First, I'd like to give some credit to Sherry Mills, who is a Tarrant County Master Gardener and our president of the association, for giving me this presentation several months ago as the backbone. And I took it and threw in some things. So I want to give her credit for the basis for this. Thank you, Sherry. So, hello, fall. Fall brings football, campfires, holidays, family, pumpkin pie, and of course, gardening. Can't forget gardening. Cooler weather has arrived. Well, not exactly. Understand the Northeast up around Maine and New Hampshire, they are having the same amount of heat we're having here. And I think Virginia's getting a taste of it also. So we're all in this together. So the trees haven't started turning. We haven't started losing leaves here yet, but it'll be here before we know it. So we need to start getting our lawns ready. We do that by raking up leaves, cutting, trimming, pruning, picking up the yards, dead branches, all the above. So we're going to get more into that. So how do we deal with fallen leaves? Well, multiple people can rake them up, put them in a bag. Some counties will take them and put them in a landfill. We would rather you not do that. You can take a lawnmower and run over and grind them up with a mulch blade and then use that as mulch around your trees and around your bushes. We're going to talk about mulch a little bit later and a little more defined aspect of it, but you can use them for those, and we prefer you to do that. So are leaves trash or are they treasure? Well, actually they're something you want to keep around. They're not trash. I recall as a child growing up, we pile them up and hide in them and jump in them and make a big mess. And, after 20 or 30 minutes of that, you get tired. It's time to keep raking them and getting to the curb. I lived in a community where they would come by every Tuesday with a large vacuum truck, and they would suck up all the leaves from the curb. a little note to let everybody know that lives in Texas. With this heat wave we're going through, sometimes our internet will have a delay because they don't get real efficient over 9 degrees. So you saw it just like up a second ago. So we want to compost and save our leaves. Let's talk about how we care for our trees and shrubs. So I've pictured here 4 of our many, many native trees we have here in Texas. Top left is a Texas pistache. Top right is a sycamore. Bottom left there is a Shumard red oak, and the bottom right is a cedar elm. I was fortunate enough to I closed on a new house on Friday, and I got a choice of the trees, so I picked the cedar elm. It's a native tree. It has the smallest leaf of any native tree in Texas. And how big's the leaf? About the size of your thumb. So it's not something I'm going to be putting a lot of those around the bushes and stuff. So what we want to do with our trees is now's the time to think about if I need to plant a tree and shrubs. We prefer to use native, and we have a vast majority of those. For folks here in Texas, you can log on, what are great trees or shrubs from North Texas, hit enter, and you will probably get some sort of article from Aggie Land down in College Station. We want to make sure that we give plenty of water to the trees. There's an old saying that you can't overwater a tree in the summertime in Texas. They love the water. You want to prune trees, but only when they're dormant. And there are periods for that by tree. They kind of overlap a little bit, but when they're mainly dormant, we'll say, generally speaking, between December through, let's say, the 1st of February, you might want to, is a general good time to prune a tree. Except the oaks. The oaks here in Texas, we have a issue with those, and we don't prune those to July because of the beetle that carries the oaks disease around. You want to guard your trunks of the trees against deer and sun damage. You can wrap white cloth around them, and those weed eaters. Yeah, everybody likes to hack on right there at the crown. The crown is the bottom of any the tree trunk that's close to the ground. They call it the crown. And you want to mulch around and remulch your trees. Now, I'm going to make a general statement about mulch. Flower beds, trees, no more than 2 inches of mulch. You're not doing anyone any favors by putting 4 or 5 or 6 inches. What you're actually going to do is you're going to kill the tree and or the bushes. You always want to leave mulch 4 to 5 inches away from the stalk or the trunk of a tree or a bush. Now, with that said, as we're talking about fall gardening, you want to initially put mulch up as close to the trunks on your bushes and the tree as we can through the winter season to help them live through the season. Now, when we get into spring, you got to remember that you're going to have to go back and pull the mulch back. All right. And please, no colored mulch, no red, no black, no tan, no painted mulch. We want you to be using a native mulch and not pine mulch, but a native mulch like cedar. Same cedar that you put in your closets to keep the bugs away. Same thing will happen in your yard. If you put pine mulch in your yard, it's going to bring moss, it's going to bring ants because it's a soft wood to chew on. All right? Make sense? All right, there's an example of some mulch right here. This is cedar mulch that's been put in. It's a tan color. It's naturally that color. And there's about the size. That's chopped mulch, which is very, very common. All right, so mulching the trees. Well, my buddies tell me I should mulch trees like that. And then my parents used to say we need to mulch like that. And my neighbor and my minister say, well, you need to mulch it like that because it looks nice. And basic people in society tell you it needs to look like that. Well, it should not look like that. It needs to look like that. 2 inches of mulch, flat, not covering up the crown, nice and flat, and the width of the drip line of the tree. I'll let that sink in for a second. The trees are dense. You're not going to have a lot of light coming through. So around here, St. Augustine grass might grow in or it might not grow into it. So you used to have a lot of bare spots. So if you just mulch around the drip line inward to the tree, looks nice and presentable. And this, by the way, level of mulch here is all we need, about 2 inches. All right. All right, let's talk about vegetable gardens. Now's the time to get everything prepared and ready to go. Things are dying out. They will be September, October timeframe if you don't have any of your winter garden vegetables coming in. You need to pull out, clean up, cut off, redo your irrigation system, your drip system, and prepare everything, your arbors or whatever. I can remember my father grew up on a farm, then we grew up in the county and moved to the city when I was in the 5th grade. And he always had a garden in the backyard. And he would cut the tops off the onions and beets and things and leave them in the dirt, not knowing what he was doing then, but now I know why, because they would basically be compost and for the next year. All right. So we're going to talk a tad about fertilizer a little later towards the end, but we do need to put in some fertilizer and weed killer pre-emerge at this time. But we're going to talk about it in more detail as we get into this. All right, so talking about the gardens, we want to clean out those planting areas of all the dead veggies and things, whatever string line you have for the cucumbers or however you do your gardens. Put away the stakes, clean the labels off, make use of the time right now before it's snowing or freezing outside. Add compost. I will say this. Know if you're going to buy compost either at a big box store or at a nursery, know the source of the compost. There are always stories all over the internet and in real life that you go buy a bag of compost and you're dumping it out. There we go. You're dumping it out and a tree bark falls out of it or a bear can or something. Know the source of who's making compost. All right. If you have crops that you want to hold over to the spring, you need to cover them up. And now's the time to think about redesigning and expanding your planting area for your garden, right? Vegetable garden. All right. Let's talk about cleaning up those pots that you have stored out there where all those annuals and perennial plants were in. Well, the white powdery stuff you see on a lot of the terracotta pots. As you know, terracotta is a porous pot. It's made out of clay. It's actually called effervescence. It's a buildup of mineral salts and fertilizer used in watering and fertilizing the plant that seeps through. I was fortunate enough in my life to work in a construction business, and brick, if you ever see large sides of a building where this white powdery stuff is, it looks like people used to call it chlorine. It's not as actual effervescence. It's the sodium from the salt coming through from the mortar and it's blending through and coming through the brick. So what you could do is do a mixture of 1 part white vinegar to 20 parts water, mix it up, and put your pots in it. And the bottom left picture here demonstrates that. It actually will clean those off, or you can do it the old-timey way, like the bottom right picture is, and just get you and scrub at it and have at it. All right, but you need to clean the pots up. Well, that's common about those terracotta pots. As beautiful as a glazed terracotta pot is, aqua colored outside or glazed black or some sort of mosaic look that fold over the top and go down inside the pot in a beautiful glaze, those are horrendous on plants. You need to stick with a plain Jane terracotta pot. And if you want to let your grandkids use a water-based paint or something, that's a little different. But that glazing on those terracotta pots just locks down those pots from being able to breathe. We want to empty the containers, clean out the flower beds, collect any seeds you may have from the deadheads on there, put them in a jar, and take your cuttings to grow indoors. All righty. Yeah, beautiful. Here we have cone flowers in the top left. Got some daylilies. So we're going to talk about perennial gardens. This is a picture here of dividing. I think they look like daylilies in the top, and we have a beautiful demo garden by our training building. And they just finished dividing the irises last month, bags and bags and bags of them. Just beautiful. So I've highlighted here on the right, this gentleman's using a particular garden tool that everybody needs to have. And I'm not promoting, I don't get any feedback or any commission on this, but if you don't have a Hori knife, Hori tool, that's the name of it, you need to get one. You can get them on Amazon for like $25. I was over at the big box store Lowe's the other day. They had them for about 20 bucks. You can get them a plastic handle, you get them a wood handle, you can get them pink, and it's a multi-tool that has, you'll see one closer up here in a minute. It's got one markings on it for planting bulbs. It's got a knife on one edge. It's got a serrated edge on the other for cutting through roots and stuff. And it has a natural oval bevel to it. That comes with a sheath. Your life will change. You can do anything you want with that and won't have to carry but one tool around. That's my freebie for the night. All right, let's talk about some really neat best fall perennials. Now, this presentation is for Texas. I think I have a few items in here I've picked out that may be good if you live outside of the state of Texas, like on the East Coast, like some of those people in Virginia. Oh, love it. This is one of my favorite lilies here, Naked Lady Lily. Beautiful lily, comes back every year. Oxblood lily, nice and red, brings in all those hummingbirds. Absolutely lovely lily. Spider lily, my grandmother used to grow these in blue back when I really didn't know what gardening was all about. And just a beautiful, beautiful lily. Here's a Greg's blue mist flower. So if you live in this area, everybody knows what this is. This is a Texas Superstar, and that means a group of about 7 or 8 horticulturalists from A&M have gone through 20 different locations in the state of Texas, from the Panhandle to the Corpus Christi area to the Piney Woods on the east, all the way to El Paso, and they've planted over 90 different plants, bushes, perennials, annuals, all throughout, and all of them grew wonderful. That means you could take this plant and go out in your yard now and dig a hole and stick in it, and it would grow wonderful. So it gets tagged as a Texas Superstar. So they love butterflies. It's a beautiful, beautiful plant. Greg's blue mist flower. All right, here's the old Mexican mint marigold. This happens to be the one that's behind me here on the screen behind me. Beautiful marigold. You see a close-up on the right here. It grows well. These things self-multiply every year, and they're lovely. Here's autumn sage. One thing I'm not big into is the genus or the species, because I can't say the words and it's Latin, and I'm not from that area. So here is a plant, native perennial, called autumn sage or Salvia greggii. All right. Comes in multiple colors. They have one called Hot Lips, which is top left there. You got the purple, you have the white. The bottom right and the bottom, I'm sorry, the bottom middle and the bottom left are probably the more famous ones you see around, the pink and the red. Hummingbirds love them. They're really a great, great plant. All these last 2 or 3 we've shown here, 0 to no water. I mean, like a little bit of water, just leave them alone and let them grow, and they're native. Here's a Texas bush sage, not to be confused. Here's a Texas bush sage, not to be confused with the hummingbird bush. Another Texas Superstar. You can see how big they are. Yes, hummingbirds love them, butterflies love them, and they grow very nice plumage on there. Autumn joy sedum, great plant for a pot as well as a walkway, and you can see on the right here, it's very similar to a yarrow. I do not have that particular plant here, but it's very similar to that native plant. But yarrow is more cupped upward, like a Queen Anne's lace, which is a native root, which is called carrot, native carrot. Here we have fall crocus, beautiful low plant. They come in yellow, they come in white, they come in purple, they come in blue. Beautiful flower. Here we go, chrysanthemums, also known as mums. There's a joke I tell you sometime about chrysanthemums, but these come out every fall, and unbeknownst to a lot of people, they do live through the winter. And I've been told for years they do not. Well, they do. I left some outside in 3 different pots this year, including my daughter's house, and all of them came back. So they're a beautiful plant. Now, as they finish blooming, go out there and take a time and you get some hedge trimmers and just trim those right off. We call them dead-headed, and you'll get another bloom out of them. Another planting, another fall ester. Nice plant, 12, 18 inches tall. People used to call it a purple daisy, but it's actually a fall ester. Another beautiful plant. Here's some beautiful bulbs. Of course, we have jonquils in the middle here, more lilies, tulips. This is planting charts are readily available anywhere online. And nowadays, when you buy in the big box stores, your local nursery, when you buy a tulip, it has a planting chart in the back for you, how deep to plant them, and if you want to put multiple tulips in a particular pot. Aren't those gorgeous? Here's an example. You got to you have to be a little bit creative though. You have to know if you're putting in your first and second layer that you're not putting them over top of each other. I made that mistake, and they bottom layer didn't make it. And when I dug them up, it was because they were poking in trying to push the other ones out. And you can plant them so that you get the taller ones in the back, short ones in the front, as demonstrated here on the right. Beautiful marigolds. We'll talk about these and jump a little bit to the garden. So next spring, when your vegetable garden comes up, we call these sacrificial plants. So you plant these around the perimeter of your garden, and the rabbits will eat them, and they'll get filled up, and they'll go back to where they came from. If you plant them inside your garden, they also assist with keeping aphids and bugs out of your plants, and they're relatively inexpensive. Marigolds, you save the seeds, replant them, but this is one of our sacrificial plants mainly for that. They have a longer bloom time than chrysanthemums. It's also one of our Texas superstars for almost 20 years now. Yeah, very pretty plant, and they come in various different species. Snapdragons, nice vertical plant. It's an annual here in North Texas, though. Blooms best during the cool season, and 15, 20 inches tall if it's happy. And they do have dwarf ones that are called small. Very nice and pretty. A lot of different colors you can pick up. Another beautiful plant. Just they mound and great for on a pathway. Small. Got to be careful not to put these in the ground too early, especially like this month or next month. This is more of a fall plant, and it goes over to next year because the sun will really tear them up. And the pansies. You see a lot of these advertised when we have our first snow around here. They usually find where there's pansies growing because they do pretty well in the cold weather, and they'll have snow around them. So pansies are good if you like them. Pansies are you get all different varieties, all different type of species and looks and colors, solids, all the rainbow colors. Ornamental cabbage and kale. This is one of I'll call it our commercial plants. We see a lot of the commercial landscapers put these out around big manufacturing plants because they're there for color all during the winter time. You apply a bunch of high nitrogen fertilizer in December that boosts through that period until the spring. And yeah, there they are if you like them. All right, let's talk about, you got to have those tools. Let's talk about tools a little bit. I'm smiling because I've done this presentation a few times, and inevitably somebody asks me the question, where is that top organizer from? I have no idea. I think they maybe either made it or got it on Amazon. But now's the time to get your utensils out, clean them up, and put them away, take care of them, get all the rust off of them and the dirt and stuff. And by the way, you see there in the top right of that pegboard, there's that Hori Hori tool we've talked about. So you want to clean your hand tools and sharpen the blades. Yeah, we actually have here in Texas, when you become a master gardener, part of the process of being certified, we spend half a day learning how to sharpen all of our stuff, and we actually get to do it. So sharpen blades on those shovels, your spades, your hose, everything. And it definitely makes life a lot easier when you start using them again in the spring. You want to take care of those. You want to drain hoses around your spigots, as well as in your irrigation pipes, in your PVC pipe you have underground, depending on where you live. And of course, here in Texas, depending on who did your irrigation for your yard, they would have a rocked area underground with a weep that you can open the valve and drain the pipes at the low point in your irrigation system. And the same way on any of the tubing, if you have drip tubing for that. You have a lawnmower that's gas powered. You want to change that oil and the gas and clean the air filter. You want to get it ready for next year. My daughter this year, lawnmower won't start, so Dad had to go over there and take the carburetor apart and get the water out of it. So it does make a difference. And you want to clean out those sprayers that you use for spraying any fertilizer or bug killer. I'll tell you, this internet's killing me tonight. And you want to clean out those gutters. You don't need any plants growing in your gutters, do you? We talked about irrigation or the sprinkler system. Turn off the controller. You're not going to need it. Once we get into the cold months here in Texas, I'm talking about out of September. We've had 100-degree days here in September. October's, November, December to turn it off. Insulate any exposed pipes you have that come up to your spigots and things, especially those hose bibs on the side of your house. Go to your big box store and get one of those little pyramid looking things for $3, or go buy get a styrofoam cup, does the same thing, and drain the water at those low points. All right, so I've added this today. I was doing I do the same presentation called Spring Gardening Prep, and I was getting inundated. I mean, like 30 or 40 questions about fertilizer and pre-emergence. So I thought I would just go through it. It's called Jim's Quick Tips. Here in Texas, we would prefer you would use a 3-1-2 ratio blend of your fertilizer. It doesn't matter if it's Scott's, if it's from Wally World, or you just want to make sure it's a blend of the first number being nitrogen, second number being phosphorus, third number being potassium of a 3-1-2 mix. 30-10-20 is a good example. Can it be a 25-5-5 or a 25-5-10? Sure, that'll be fine. Point we want to get to is we don't want to have a 0-30-20 mix. You want to have nitrogen. Nitrogen is what gives that plant, your yard, leaf, and stem growth. Now you go flip over that bag before you buy it, and on the back it's going to tell you what percent of the nitrogen is slow release. We really like that to be about a 30 or 40%. All right. Now you might have to look, but don't go off and pay $45 for a bag of fertilizer to get 30% slow release when you can get the same for $18. You with me? All right. Phosphorus, the middle number, is good for roots and flowers and any fruits. And potassium is for the hardiness of the plant. And when I say plant, I'm talking about fertilizer that's used uh, across the board here for lawns and things, all right? Now for lawns, we want to put it on Bermuda April, June, July, and September. What does that mean? As part of the presentation for fall gardening prep, you want to prep the lawn. So in September, give it a final mow, put down fertilizer. St. Augustine, May, June, September. Well, you can read the rest. Zoysia, May, June, and September. It's all good stuff. All right. So you might have heard in the past some people say, well, do it in April and do it in September. That's good. But after about 60, 70 days, that fertilizer is history. And so in the summertime, it needs food, right? So that's why you want to hit it in the summertime. Make sense? All right. So if you're in Texas, you're getting here, especially in Dallas, you're getting a treat because we're going to talk about some weeds. So wherever you live in the United States, there's three types of weeds. No, not the good, the bad, and the ugly. No, there's a broadleaf, a grassy, and a sedge. That's it. Broadleaf has a flower. So if you just think about it, if you walk outside and you see a weed growing, it's got a flower on it, it's a broadleaf. The reason why I bring that up because how we're going to treat it is going to depend on what kind of weed it is, right? Example here, dandelion, which I think dandelion's everywhere. I hear that Noah had dandelions on the ark, right? So it's been around forever. Burr clover, spurge, henpecked, oxalis, all those are a broadleaf weed. And of course, I have a picture of a dandelion there in front of you. There's a grassy weed. It looks like grass. It doesn't look like Bermuda or zoysia or St. Augustine, but it must be a grassy weed because it looks like grass. Rarely will you see a grassy weed that has a flower on it, all right? So here I have put in one of the top two hatred, hardest, toughest grassy weeds we have here in the DFW area, which is a Dallas grass. It is horrible. These things, if they go untreated, will put out a 2 or 3 foot round per individual plant. And they are tough. We're going to talk about in a minute when's the right time to take care of these. Obviously, you want to take care of them when they're small and growing rather than big. The bigger they get, they're going to need a lot more love to get rid of them. And then there's sedge. Also, I have Poa annua. The bottom right over here is annual bluegrass. Here we call it, in Texas, we call it a weed. In Virginia and in Carolina, they plant that in golf courses. So, because it's a single clump, it seeds itself and does a great job, and they put it down by the truckload there, and they make uh, uh, all their golf courses out of them. All right, then the sedge, toughest to kill. Sedge has stolons are under the ground, and if you pull one of them up, they just keep growing. So here's a yellow nut sedge right here. They're toughy. Those are a toughie. So let's talk about how we're going to treat them. Well, since we're talking about fall, this is time to put down some pre-emergent herbicides. Now, pre-emergent means it's a granular. And I'll give you some examples here in a second. The bottom, you can see that some products here. For the warm season annual weeds, you put a pre-emergent down in February and March. That's for the stuff that's going to be coming up in the fall. You got to wait till the temperature at least 55 degrees, and it may need an application somewhere around the middle of the year. All right. For cool season annual weeds, which we're talking about in this presentation, so they won't come up in April, May, June, now's the time you need to put out a pre-emergent. But here's the key. You need to put it down in August through September. Once that ground gets cold, no good. When it's 55, 40 degrees, you're wasting your time and your money. All right. So here's some products on the screen here for a broadleaf, back to the broadleaf weeds, Gallery, Celsius, all those are great. The grasses, there's some good ones there. Halts is probably pretty familiar from most of y'all. If you go to a big box stores, Home Depot, Lowe's, Walmart, they carry Halts. They have Bedasan. And then for sedges, that one you probably have to go to a nursery to get that. All right. All these, you do not have to have a license to have to purchase these. All right. Make sense? All right. So here are the 4 toughest annual grass weeds. I'm not going to say in Texas, but we're not far from it. Annual bluegrass, which is the top one there. Poana. It's tough. It's a toughie. It is tough, 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 tough. I missed putting out Halts one year, and the next year it just inundates. I don't know of anybody who's never had that in their yard. It's tough. It's almost irritating to the point where you just send your grandkids out there and you pay them $5 to let them just pull it up and just pull it by the clump. Spurge. Spurge is either spotted. The little leaf has a little, like the picture here, has a like the picture here has a little dot in it that's spotted or it creeps or prostrate. All of them grow and it has a white, when you pull it and snap, it has a white milky stuff that comes out of it. That's spurge. Best way to take care of that sucker is any product with 2,4-D. All right. Now, there's majority of the products when you walk into a big box store or your nursery for a front end sprayer has 2,4-D in it. It's a great product. It's been around since the 80s. It's a go-to. All right. As far as a pre-emergent, you put on Gallery or Dimension. Crabgrass, there's some post and pre-emergence in the same way with Dallas grass. All right. Those are the basic 4 toughest weeds we have here. And if you've never had any of these, oh, you're precious. Here's a little close-up view of them. All right. Now, I only throw this in here only because I've used a lot of broadleaf weed killers in my time. And here's a product from Spectracide that'll kill 470 weeds, and they have a new blend nowadays that also includes crabgrass. Now, and also has nutsedge included. And the one with the orange has a nutsedge in it. The other one I think is yellow, has just basic killer. It's inexpensive. Hook it on the front of your hose. We'll do like a 3,000 square foot yard, and it'll knock them down. There are a lot of great products on the market. I'm just saying, generally speaking, everybody asks me, what would you recommend? I've used this product here. My kids have this. When my kids in their yards don't do anything and they call me because they have a weed problem, I show up with this. That's all I'm saying. Which means those are post-emergence. Well, Jim, how often do I put down a post-emergent? Depends on how bad your weeds are. A post-emergent is a liquid, like I just showed. This is a post-emergent. You just put it on the end of your hose, walk as far away from the hose bib as you can, and you want to work backwards. Turn it on and just start spraying it real slow back and forth and let it hit the weeds. Don't do it in the middle of the day. Do it towards the afternoon and when it's warmer, and just hit them. Now, you'll see here for broadleaf and grassy weeds, 2,4-D handles pretty much all of your broadleaf weed issues. The grassy weeds and the weed stop, they'll hit them. You may have to do sometimes, depending on how old the weed is, a couple times. And for zoysia, there's a product to use specifically for that. And then again, for nutsedge, it's a monster. Image, we've all seen it. It's about $18 a bottle. Sedgehammer, it's in Monument. Those two, all 3 of those are great products. You're going to pay a little money for Sedgehammer. All right. Post-emergent, these are all sprays. once they come up and you want to get rid of them in April, May timeframe. All right. All right. Here's a product that we're going to jump to the very beginning about gardens. Now you've cleaned up your garden and you're ready to give your garden a kiss goodnight for the season. Here is a pre-emergent from Preen that you can put in the dirt and blend it into the dirt, and it will stop weeds from growing in your garden for the next season. All right. Did some research on it today, and it has really good reviews. They have one made just for gardens. All right. All right. Here's two weeds here that there is not a weed killer to kill, nor a pre-emergent to put on the ground to kill them. One of them is greenbrier. This is a tough, tough vine. Grows in the ground, in a rhizome, and it just in the ground, and it comes off. It looks like a stick, and it grows vertically. It's got some berries on it, and it grows up trees and fences, and you can. It's not going to 2,4-D isn't going to touch it. However, Texas A&M, who we're under here in Texas, says there's one product starts with an R, glyphosate, okay, Roundup, that will kill it. It may take 2 or 3 opportunities to kill this. So when it's poking up through the ground, when it's up the side of your fence or your tree, hit it with it. I would not spray it on a tree, as it will probably attack the tree. But I would definitely spray. You can cover it with cardboard and spray the vine, or cut the vine. But if you want to kill it, spray it at the ground and just soak it with the Roundup, and that will kill it. Recommended by AgriLife. Second one's poison ivy, poison oak. They're cousins of each other, by the way. Remember back to Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts, leaves of 3, let it be. Because the leaves of poison oak don't always look like that on the tree. They can be a reddish color. They can be a lighter green color. But they do grow up trees, and they're always around. So you need to leave them alone. When in doubt, Roundup, and let those suckers take care of it for you. Do not burn poison ivy or poison oak. It gets airborne, and it will breathe it in. It'll mess you up just as bad. The oil from those leaves and the vines really is what gets you. My brothers, I have twin brothers that are older than I am, and you can say the word poison oak, and they'll start itching. They have it. They would get it really bad. Of course, this is back in the days that we put Clorox on it and scratch it. Knock on wood, I've never had it, so I must be living too clean. Autumn is the second spring when every leaf is a flower. So in closing, I want to thank everybody for signing up tonight. I hope you learned something. It's always a pleasure doing this for you, everybody. Any questions?
No questions in the chat room or the Q&A yet.
I hope that's a good sign.
I guess you just answered everything.
No, I don't think so.
We just had a question put in here. Does the green affect plants you are growing?
Say that one more time.
Joanne Curley asked, does the green affect plants you are growing?
The second word you're saying, does what? Does green?
Yeah, she just wrote green. Maybe she can clarify a little bit.
Does green affect?
Okay, preen, P-R-E-E-N. She had a typo.
Plants. Plants. Okay, no, it does not. In the garden, it does not. It's a pre-emergent. It does not attack. It's formulated only for weed seeds.
All righty. And Kyle wants to know, what do you use for sandburrs?
Oh man. Okay, Kyle, here's great question. Matter of fact, I was going to put that in the list tonight because it is I get that a lot. It's a toughie. 2,4-D is not going to touch it. Now uh, there's some other I'm thinking through because I spent a lot of time looking at weed killer. Um, I even haven't even seen it. Um, you're going to have to probably get some Roundup with the plastic cone on it, and hit it. That means it's going to direct it right to it. Roundup's really good. It will not spray if you spray it on a weed or a plant or whatever you want to kill. It won't migrate around and get anything else. It's really good about staying, and it's systemic, so it's going to find it. It's going to kill it, roots and everything. I am not aware of a weed killer that can put on end of a garden hose that's going to kill. That's a tough one.
Okay. And Terry would like to know, what do you cover crop? Maybe he's asking what he uses to cover crop.
I have seen straw as far as I think he's asking maybe in the material. You can use a freeze blanket sheathing here. It's white. Make sure it breathes. Um, that works really well on gardens. Put it down with rocks around the side of it, to keep it down so the wind doesn't blow it away. Does well.
Okay.
But it needs to breathe. It needs to breathe. You don't want to use a tarp or plastic, like painter's plastic, like a 5 mil drop cloth. That does not work. You're creating other issues, but you want it so it can breathe.
All righty. And Donna wants to know, is there anything we can apply in the fall to prevent hedge parsley in the spring?
Yes. One of the pre-emergents that I noted there will definitely take care of that.
Okay. And Kyle,
And I'll just say this: if pre-emergents are new to you, they work really slick. But remember, it's granular, so you got to use a fertilizer spreader to spread it.
okay. And Kyle just wrote the words post-emergence and pre-emergence. So Kyle, I don't know what kind of question
Okay.
you're asking
You
on
probably
that
asking
one.
for definition.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Pre-emergent is what we put down in April and in September. Okay, let me start over. Pre-emergent. We put out pre-emergent in April to keep the weeds from coming up in the fall. We put out pre-emergent in the fall, September, to keep the weeds from coming up in the spring. Now, that's pre-emergent. That's granular. The post-emergent is the liquid. That's what you spray if you see weeds. So you have a yard and there are weeds in your yard, you'll go out there and you'll spray it with a weed killer. That's the post-emergent.
Okay. All right. And Janet wrote, have you had any luck with horticultural vinegar for killing weeds and vines?
Okay, here we go.
Debate.
I have. And we get into this 5%, 30% white vinegar with 4 or 5 drops of the blue soap. And you mix them up with sodium or salt. And yes, they do well. Yes, they do. And they're inexpensive and they're more organically pleasing. But the key is you got to remember, if you're out there on the internet floating around, you'll see people use vinegar and mix with the sodium and they mix it up like kosher salt and then they spray it and then they got a big mess. You need to have something that's going to make it stick to the leaf. And that's where Dawn hand soap or soap comes in. You mix all those together, spray it, and yes, they do work well.
All righty. And Jan wants to know or says, there's a green vine that is similar to greenbrier, but no thorns. It is crawling up my liagas and strangling it.
Yeah, there is one out here that's thornless. It's that one. If it's the same one I'm thinking of, the leaf looks almost identical to it. I have killed it by using a weed killer. not a grass killer. I mean, one that you can spray it on, like it has 2,4-D in it. And it won't attack the grass, but it will kill it. It'll kill as a weed killer. And you can buy that in this regular spray pump and spray and hit it.
Okay. All right. And Debbie asked, will the weed killers affect trees?
Great question. We get this a lot. We get this a lot about, first of all, the pre-emergents will not mess with the trees. All right. They will not mess with the trees because it's two different mixtures they're after, right? The mixtures are, they're after, pre-emergence is a granular that lays on the dirt. So when the weed seeds hit it, they're done. It doesn't, when water takes it into the ground, takes it into the ground, it's okay. Because you remember, tree roots are only 8 to 10 inches beneath the dirt, right? So no, weed killer will not kill it. Even a pre-emergent or even a post-emergent, a liquid, will not bother the trees. Absolutely not. Now, if you have a tree that has a borehole in it from a bug, or 4 or 5 of them, let's say, but your tree is healthy, and you take weed killer and you sprayed it in those holes, trees decompartmentalize themselves. It could probably let you know you did something to it. All right. So I wouldn't recommend spraying it on a tree. I would not go out and spray the side of the tree that has something, a weed on it.
Okay. And Brandy would like to know, do you have any shade-loving fall plants you would recommend?
Oh boy. Well, here in Texas, when you say the word shade, here comes the discussion. So if you have 100% shade, I'm a hosta guy. And they come in tons of varieties, hostas. They have one variety that has a white little arching little bells on it. And I think it's called a clarabelle. And they're a beautiful plant, and they're variegated, all different types of hostas. Hosta's a good one for shade. I'm assuming you're talking about 100% shade. If you talk about a plant like in semi-shade, meaning I get like a little bit of sun and 5 hours of shade, yes, we have. There's a lot of good sun shade plants. Hydrangeas are a good one. Limelight's a good one, for example. That's just a beautiful hydrangea. They get a little bit of sun, a lot of shade. Um, Turk's cap will grow, which is a Texas superstar, will grow in a little bit of sun, a little bit of shade, even though they really like a lot of sun in the morning. They'll grow well. If you drop me your email address, I will send you a list of the top 20 sun plants here in Texas.
Okay, sounds good. Maybe that would be something we could send out with the recording to everybody.
Yep.
Yeah. Janet wants to know, I'm 100%, excuse me, 190% organic here, and have found I have to make peace with some weeds. I guess that's a comment. Okay. Debbie wants to know, if so, how far should it be kept away from trees? Maybe she's talking about mulch.
Okay. All right. Right point. So when we get into the wintertime, fall, we're going fall, let's say before January, we're going to mulch everything, pile them up, and because we'll keep everything nice and warm. You're going to have to remember when we get into like February, when the freeze is kind of over, or March, when the freeze around here is kind of over. It used to be March 17th here in DFW area was the date when you could plant after that. They've now moved it to the 28th of March. So I'll tell all my buddies and classes I teach, first week of April, you can put it in the ground, right?
Mm.
That's when you're going to have to move the mulch out. 6 inches around, all the way around the trunk of a tree.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Open that sucker up. Open it up. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Carolyn writes, very good presentation. Thank you. Okay.
Sure, you bet.
Yeah. And Paula says Lowe's had Roundup, but the ingredient was tricyclor, PLOR, not glyphosate. So she ended up ordering it online. Thoughts on tricyclor?
It's one of the multiple weed killers. There's 7 different weed killers besides 2,4-D that are blended. Those are more specific, blended for the tougher weeds and some of the grasses that are used.
Mhm.
So I don't want to. I do a presentation about grasses. When you get into the hybrid Bermudas for football fields, for example,
Mhm.
they react differently to a 2,4-D product. Let's say this is an example than some of the other chemicals we use for killing weeds because they don't like
Okay.
brown spots. You know, the NCAA don't like brown spots on the grass. So there's different particular, and that's where those. But for general people that have a house that have the general weeds, we have any product with 2,4-D is going to solve 85% of your problem you're going to have.
Yeah. And this brings up a good example of why we encourage people to read the label, because Roundup has about 6 different versions. Am I not correct?
That's correct.
Yeah. So you have to be
And
very, very careful there.
yeah,
Yeah.
and Teresa, I'm glad you brought this up. And I'm not bashing Roundup at all. I'm just saying that now they have their new product out that came out this year that's made for lawns. The problem is that the labels look almost identical to the weed killer versus weed killer for lawns. And I'm sensing that the sales are really kind of goofy. Um, I can tell you experience about Roundup. I worked for a company and we had all of A&M's sites, and we mistakenly misread a label and put
Uh,
112 gallons of it on their practice football field. That was not good. Yeah, that was not good. It's non-forgiving. We got the grass to grow back, but it was a that's another discussion for another day.
okay. Well, Kitty wants to know, what was the fall perennial you showed before the Naked Lady Lily? And what is it safe to use? What is safe to use around pets?
All right. Before the Naked Lady.
Yep. Maybe
Oh,
this
this
one?
is a it's a
It's goldenrod, isn't it?
it's goldenrod. Thank you.
Yeah.
I had it written down here in a sticky, and I just put it up there today. It's goldenrod, beautiful
Yeah.
plant. And by the way, I'm sorry. Who asked that question, Teresa?
Kitty. Kitty.
Kenny. You can buy this at Walmart.
Mhm.
Yeah, this is a beautiful plant. When you see them, you better buy them because they go quick when they
Mhm.
when they come out from the growers in March and April. This is one of the ones, and it's a love of a plant.
Mhm. Okay. And her second question from Kitty is, what is safe for use to use around pets?
For weed
She
killers,
didn't say. She didn't say.
okay, so any of the fertilizers are going to be fine. I mean, if a cat wants to or a dog wants to go out there and eat a mouthful of fertilizer, a granular, I can't help you there. Now, as far as weed killers, um, that's a different animal. I'm not trying to be funny. My daughter has cats and dogs, and I've told her when she sprays weed killer, the dogs stay inside until it dries. Once it dries, they'll be fine.
Okay.
Now, there are some organic weed killers out there that are safe for dogs. Right this second, I can see the bottle, but it's white and it has green lettering on it. I think it starts with a P, and it's formulated for pets. But I want to make the statement here in America, as an American, we like stuff done now, right? So if you got weeds in your yard and you put an organic, that's great, or you put a milder version because of pets, that's great. It will eventually pass away. I'm talking about the weeds. However, we like stuff done, spray it today, it's gone tomorrow. So a lot of these formulas are made for quick death weeds.
Mhm. Okay. You still there?
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay. All righty. And Gina says she's struggling with blight on her tomatoes. Should she just bite the bullet and remove them entirely? She doesn't want any of it getting into the raised bed soil.
You you bet. Matter of fact, I follow a horticulture guy every week, and there comes a point if you have a bad dose of it, rather than do chemical warfare on it, you bet. Just
Yeah.
bite the bullet, move it. or just cut her down and move elsewhere. Same way with rose rosetta here in Texas. If you have a rose, don't try to save it. You can't, first of all, you can't save it. Just cut it down, get rid of it.
I understand. And Sharon would like to know, how do you get rid of nut grass in the St. Augustine lawn?
Okay. Great question. I'm glad she asked this because the weed killers we've talked about, I was a professional soccer referee for 20 years. And at the bottom of every decision making we had in the book, it always said, at the discretion of the referee. So back to the weed killers, read the label because you want to make sure if you have St. Augustine that you get the right weed killer for St. Augustine. It's formulated a little different. There are products out there that will kill it. And I know there are versions of the ones I had in the list there that are for St. Augustine.
Okay. Right. And
Now,
Kyle wants to know,
I will say this, I'm sorry.
go
You
ahead.
don't have to go to a Green Thumb or a lawn service to get that. To get that applied.
Okay. Right. And Kyle wanted to clarify his previous question. He said that was post and pre for Sam Burr. So I guess he's asking post emergence and pre-emergence.
Exactly. Yeah, they're on the list there.
Okay.
Yeah, right. And you
All right.
you get so post means spray, spray, spray. Pre means granular.
All righty. And Terry's got a good question we haven't heard. Says, what kind of cover crops would you recommend to put in a raised bed? He's a first time, or she is a first time gardener.
Well, what I would do is I would type in the question, :period, TAMU.edu. That's going to send it directly to Texas A&M, and they have a nice list of plants that would fit your need where you live. It depends on where you live. If you live in the Dallas area, it depends on what you like to eat. But they have a nice list of things that would fit that perfectly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I have to say that I really like red clover here in Joshua down here. I have it on a little berm. Comes every year, then puts all the nice nutrients back in my soil when it's finished.
Yep.
And it has a beautiful color. Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. And Barry wants to know, how do you store your chemicals? Do you have them? Do you have a use by date?
Most chemicals have a shelf life, yes. And I would say that if it has on there used by December 12, 2025, that's its shelf life.
Okay. Yeah. And they also put warnings on a lot of them in regards to cold and hot. You know, are they any good sitting in the hot summer sun in a hot shed, or a cold shed in the wintertime? Don't
Exactly.
caution me
Yeah.
on that one. Yeah. Okay.
It's like medicine. It's like cough syrup. It loses its zip.
Okay. And Paula says she misspelled triclopyr, TRICLOPYR. Thank you for the clarification. Janet says, thank you for informative presentation. And Patricia says, what can I work into the soil in the fall other than leaves?
The first part of the question, what was that?
What can I work into the soil in fall other than leaves?
Well, we talked about using leaves as a mulch. And I'm glad she said something about that, but I had a note here I forgot to bring up. There's a huge debate about using new leaves that fall off a new tree as a mulch because it has bugs and may have disease, right? So there's a huge debate versus an old leaves that have been sitting there that are all mushy and stuff, right? So the discussion we had at the first of the presentation was about using it as mulch to mulch around things. Now, if you want to put amendments in the soil in the fall, I would wait until we get into the April, into the March April, and then do the amendments then. Depending on where you live, what type of soil you have, 3 things to go in there. Expanded shell. Okay, there's a local nursery all over that sells that stuff. Expanded shell. You want to add openness to the dirt, or perlite also does the same thing. Not vermiculite, that holds water. Perlite, expanded shell, little small stuff. Do not use pea gravel. Not good. Not the same. Expanded shell, organic material of some nature. If you want to put earthworm casings in there, great. Anything like that. Black cow manure is fine. And then mix all that stuff up with the existing soil you have, and that'll be fine. And it'll give nice nutrition with that.
Okay. And Kyle wants to know, what do you use to kill Bermuda grass and flowers? Good luck.
Well, okay. Man, that's toughy. First thing I'm going to tell you is you're not going to spray for it. You're not going to spray it. You're going to have to just breathe deep and start pulling it to get it out. If you got it bad, just pull it out. You need to edge it and just start pulling it out by the handfuls. If you're, let me come back here. If you're daring and want to spray it, you can use a weed killer, but I personally would not use a weed killer if you have a very dense flower bed. I would not do it. You got to pull it. Now, how do you prevent it? When you need to be out there every week, and when you're trimming it around your edging, you can spray for it if you have green edging, which is, by the way, green edging does not prevent grass from growing in. That's not what it's for, right? You can spray the border of it with a weed killer, and that'll help keeping it from growing into your flower bed. But if you have it in there now, you're gonna have to pull it.
Okay. Alrighty. And Kyle has our last question of the day, I believe. Whoops, next to last. How long do Roundup and 2,4-D last after mixing them with water?
Okay. So Roundup will last about 10 days. Right? The study, if you read about Roundup, you can go and spray a 10-foot by 10-foot section of grass. It's going to die, and go out there on the 11th day and plant something in it, which means it dissipates. All right. Now, 2,4-D, it's going to last about the same amount of time. We'll say 2 weeks. And usually, depending on what you're buying to use for your weed killer, right, it'll have on the front the ingredients. It'll have 2,4-D as a primary, and it might have some other chemicals. There's some of the products out there that have just 2,4-D. Within the little literature on the back label, it'll tell you its lifespan, because it depends on when you mix it. It's like mixing Kool-Aid with apple juice. Now you have 2 different things you're dealing with. So, but normally about 2 weeks it's done.
Okay. And Terry has the honor of being the last question. I live here in Central Texas, and thanks so much for this presentation and answering our questions.